Well, I'm very much delighted to see my dear old friends, and thank you very much for your coming to studies ICC. Well, today I stand here as a pinch hitter because originally this opening lecture should be given by our dear Professor Lenny Poon, but he couldn't join, so organizing committee asked me I should do. So I'm here as a pinch hitter to Lenny Poon, but the role of pinch hitter is very important. The pinch hitter should hit the home run. That's quite a bit stressing to me. So since this is a kind of a dinner talk, so rather than the official academic presentation, I'll tell you some episodic stories in Korean Centennial stories. But anyhow, before that, I was very much delighted that more than 15 countries joined this meeting, and from 6 different continents. It's South America and Australia, even Africa, they joined. So I'm very glad to hear that. Yeah. By the way, the purpose of Sentinel study is not just the extension of lifespan. It's most important thing is the vitality at the last moment. That's our real big question. So I used to interest in the functional longevity and the dignity and confidence of the last moment of our life. Early 2000, I organized the Korean Centenarian study groups. But at the time I was in Seoul National University, I asked many of the professors from different disciplines to join the Korean Centenarian study. So biologically, biochemistry, nutrition, genetic medicine, and many different clinical medicine teams, and ecologically, family studies and ecology studies, and the social aspect, statistics, economics, and the most important in our team, the anthropologists joined. So I was very glad to talk with anthropologists. They are totally different ideas from our regular scholars. And we have different steps. We preparatory step. We started that kind of Centennial study preparation since the 1995. But in 2001, we officially organized the first Korean Centennial team, and we surveyed the national survey. We started national study, but the most important thing is when we first started the Korean Centennial study, we used the kind of a longevity index. And we classified we have in Korea about 230 municipals. So longevity index, we compared all the municipals, and we ranked from top 1 to bottom 230. And top 30 is a longevity zone, and bottom 30 is a kind of short-lived zone. So we compared it. And through that kind of study, we realized that the men and women's longevity totally different, the gender difference. So we started genders. So gender dominant zone and female dominant zone and male dominant zone. In that way, we compared. And during that study, we was really surprised to find the Sorokdo Island. There's a leper patient asylum for 100 years. And there we had a chance to visit that island, and we found that the leper patients live longer than the ordinary people. So we studied this, the secrets of Hansen's people's longevity. And then Seoul Metropolitan Study Center we studied. Then I was obliged to retire from Seoul National University. So since 2010, the survey was stopped for 8 years, and 2018 I joined the Jeonnam National University, and I met Professor Park and many such a brilliant young scientists. So I asked them, let's continue the Korean Centennial study, because Gwangju area, the Honam area, is actually the long-lived zone in Korea. So we could continue the second round of Centennial study. And during the study, the most important index was the longevity index we developed. The longevity index means the population beyond 85 over 65. So it's a simple longevity index. we used, and the super longevity index we used beyond the 95 over 65. That index is very important because we do not use the total population P at all. Just the 65 beyond we can calculate the longevity, something like. So through that long story of a centennial study, we found very, very unique data. So unique. Why I say unique is in any other country's centennial study, we couldn't observe that kind of data. So I can say it's unique. First of all, is the geography of longevity is totally different. And I'll tell you later. And biologically, the data is very new, interesting that we have found. And first of all, the public factors for longevity is for that. We check the shape of the longevity by its space and time. As you see, in 2000 and 2024, we compare. We continue the data, but to summarize, briefly speaking, it's 2000 and 2024 by longevity index. And you can see some expansion of the long-lived zones and disappearing of short-lived zones, something like that. But when we divide into male and female, it's male data. The male longevity was in 2000, this area is male longevity was high. But 2024, after 20 more years later, the male longevity moved to the south. And for female cases, this female longevity zone is expanded much larger. So about 230 municipalities, I was interested in the top 30 municipalities in 2000. What difference after 25 years? This is the high longevity zone, that's 30 municipalities. After 25 years, 1/3 remained, but the other, almost half a part of the top 30 municipalities, they reduced their longevity index very low. It's totally changed. But when compared with the low longevity zones in 2000, the bottom 30, we monitored after 24 years, but about half is remained the same as still low index, low longevity index. But the other part, half of the low longevity zones, they become the top zones. It's shifting, changing within one generation. It was very interesting. So we can conclude that initially the higher instance of the longevity people live in the mid-mountain region, and the area effect is totally different between men and women, and still we can say that the female dominance in the longevity is evident. So what would be the reason? That I was really questioned. I was really curious about why there's such kind of the difference in the bi-regional and the gender difference. We tried to correlate with many variables, such as the agricultural variables, social variables, environmental variables, and cultural variables. We used many different kinds of variables and compared. But in conclusion, we don't have the answer. It was still ongoing. But to illustrate just one example, we compared the forest rate with the longevity. This higher forest rate, longevity. High longevity zone is localized here in the mid forest zone. It was very interesting. It's just a linear relationship, but it's some kind of a curved relationship. Longevity and the forest, longevity and environmental factors, that kind of relation. But we divided this data into male and female again. In female cases, that effect was still working. So in mid zone, the longevity was high. But for the male cases, there is no response. So the male case is totally different from the female longevity. So the male longevity is the reason is probably different. So at this moment, we can just assume that the female longevity is more sensitive to the sociological variables, but the male longevity is not responding to that. Rather than that, the male longevity probably related to some kind of cultural variables, we guess. So the structural lessons tells us that the relationship with the kind of all kinds of variables are not the linear, it's kind of a little bit curved. And the same environment is totally read differently by each sex, different. And sociological framing, we can say that it's not a single factor, there's multiple factors working together, so that the answer we don't have. So about the private factors for longevity research, in this case, we have to say genetics first. Of course, everybody here is, but here we have reported 20 years ago that Korean sentinel study, and we compared by GWAS analysis, and said that MLH1, BRCA1, that's oncogene, cancer gene related things that are very much related with longevity. And ApoE and ACE, the relationship is not strong as European data. And in addition, that ALDH2, PCKS1, PAX, and LIN, and EGFR are also somehow related with longevity. But interestingly, for the men, ALDH2 is prominent. So that means somehow their lifestyle is very much related with longevity, we can assume. And this data will be discussed in detail, more detail, I guess Professor Lee Go-no in session 2 and Kim Jung-soo in session 5, they will tell more things about it. And we tried to build up the Korean centenarian reference genome because they are to analyze the old people. They are currently using the HD38. That's so far the most widely used reference genome. But that was built by Caucasians only, and age is around, I heard that the 40s, something like that. So that data couldn't tell the after the 60s, 70s, 80s ages. So we to analyze the exact data about old ages, the changes, the degenerative changes and disease changes. So we think that we needed a new reference genome. So with the Korean centenarian data, we developed a new Korean centenarian reference genome, and it will be in detail explained in session 1 tomorrow morning by Dr. Yoon Cha-jung tomorrow. And another interesting thing in the Korean centenarian study was I was really surprised to find this data, but I couldn't say it so loudly because it's very sensitive. That is the hepatitis B antigen. The hepatitis B surface antigen is very important. And actually in Korea, it used to be, Korea is hepatitis B virus endemic area. And positivity of the hepatitis B surface antigen in ordinary people is 8%. 8%. But in Korean centenarians, we couldn't find any positive hepatitis B antigen, surface antigen, positive centenarian. It was absolutely zero. So it was very, very striking to us. But it was very sensitive, so I didn't announce loud so far. But today I confess to you that we have this data. Yes. And that means that somehow the infectivity and the immunity does play important role in longevity. And another thing is that we believe that we have discovered some kind of centenarian specific autoantibody. In the search of the specific things, something special in the Korean centenarians, we tried to screen many things. And among them, one is, I have a very good colleague who is working on the immunity. And he has a fuzzy peptide display library. So with that fuzzy peptide display library, I asked him to search the centenarian serum and any antibody, centenarian specific antibody repertoire, I wanted to figure it out. But among millions of peptides, only 2 peptides are responding to centenarian sera. And actually with age dependently, in the young age it's about 2% positive. In the adult it's about 5% positive. But in centenarians, about 25% positive we discovered. And these two peptides, when we checked the original source with mass spectrophotometry or something like that, we found that it comes from the same molecule, same antigen. The same antigen. The antigen is RNA polymerase 2 subunit RPB1. We identified that is the most important centenarian specific autoimmune antibody. But almost 20 years ago we have discovered, but we didn't, we just reported in the paper, but we didn't emphasize that at all because we didn't know the significance of this antibody. We didn't know at that time. But recently there are many papers are coming out that this antibody is very important. This is actually clear that in the sera, is, the damage of the RPB polymerase is clearing, and also the overactive polymerase 2 is controlled. And more than that, is the damage-associated molecular pattern is controlled by this antibody. And even they say that in Alzheimer's, this phosphorylated RPB1 is mislocalizing. Then is the cause of neurodegeneration, they say. But in centenarian, since because of this antibody, that is blocked. So we can say that this is not a simple autoimmune antibody. It is the protective immune surveillance system for the centenarians we have. So we think that that is a kind of our discovery. And another thing is the serendipity event I had. This event I have already reported many times in ICC meeting before, but that was very strange at the time because during in search of the centenarians, especially the most long-lived people we are looking for, and we search nationally. And at that time we are just crossed to the Sorot Island, very, very haphazardly, and they were found that the Sorot people's lepra patients, they are all, when we checked their death age, it was like 2005, but at that time already their general death age, in other say, modern length of life of them is beyond 92 or 93, something like this, in 2005, 20 years ago. So I was very surprised. So we checked the Sorot people, and we checked all the statistics of the record, and we found that very, very, very uniquely, when they compared the age-specific death rate between lepra patient and all Koreans, at age 70 is 0.88, at age 75, 0.83, at age 80, 0.76, at age beyond 85 is only 0.41. Age-specific death rate is very much reduced, very much. So why? So we are trying to figure it out. Why the lepra patient live so long? And we checked everything, but the asylum is nationally government controlled strictly. So nutrition and the medical care and the social system is always cared and totally controlled by the government. That's a little bit somehow good or bad, we can say. But anyhow, that is a specific point. But another thing, when we checked their sera, by the blood chemistry, we had checked every blood, we found that very instantly that the total antioxidant capacity, when we checked, it divided into two groups. And one group, the high total antioxidant capacity group, they used the Depson, DDS, the lepra patient drug, for more than 30 years, 40 years. So we found that it's a very interesting thing. So we tried to check and analyze the effect of DDS. And when we check with the CLRs, the lifespan is extended more than 35%. And more than that, at 27 days of when it's a very old age, when we checked the movement, the control is very sluggish, but the DDS group is they actively moving. So it is a very important thing. So we carry out many different systems. But the one thing I can tell you that is when we checked this DDS drug with the Parkinson model by use of MPTP models, and substantia nigra is damaged this way, but pre-treated or after treatment DDS is totally recovered just like this. So it's amazing. And the other tyrosine hydroxy positive fibers is really recovered. And more than that, the rat test, the falling latency is improved. So we believe that this is somehow very strongly related with the prevention of Parkinson or treatment of Parkinson. And more than that, I asked the rehabilitative medicine person, my colleague Johnson, also Relation University, please check the retina patient whether their muscle function is good or not. And he discovered that in the retina patients, if I'm the right hand, this is dominant. And in the case of left hand is non-dominant. And when we check this dominant and non-dominant muscle compared and the muscle power compared, it was amazing that the dominant muscle is not much related, but the non-dominant muscles, the DDS used group is dramatically improved the muscle powers. So we think that this is another way that we can apply for prevention of sarcopenia, something like that. So this DDS is a good thing, I think. So it's true that it's a serendipity discovery, but we enjoy it very much. And another unique finding is Korean food. The reason is simple. Korean centenarians, what they eat, whether the Korean Korean foods are really good for the longevity or not, we have to question. So I raised several questions. The first, in Korea traditionally they eat major is the vegetable consumption, not the fruit consumption at all. But these days fruit is very consumed, but in old days fruit was very rare. This kind of discrepancy can work for longevity or not. And another thing is our traditionally Korean vegetables, we never use in the fresh style. Always we blanched style we used. So blanching would be good or not? That was another question. And the next question was that we are mostly vegetable oriented, but the meat or beef or that animal food is very deficient. But in that case, we can easily think that vitamin B12 is only come from the animal food. So the kind of imbalance of vitamins could be problem. And the centenarians are really, they are calorie restricted or not, that I really wanted to check. And to solve the questions, we carried out several experiments that we compared antioxidant capacity and anti-mutagen capacity between vegetables and fruits. But the vegetables, both are very active. But in the fruits, antioxidant capacity is very high, but the anti-mutagenic activity is negligible. The anti-mutagenic activity of the fruits are only in the peel, but we usually cut it out the peels. So when we eat the fruits, we don't take the anti-mutagenic activity. So if we use the vegetable or fruit together, only one vegetable is good enough. And another thing is that the blanching. What the role of blanching? We checked. And the vegetables usually grown with the nitrate and nitrogen fertilizers. So the nitrate content in the vegetable is very high. But the nitrate becomes to nitrite, and nitrite makes a strong carcinogen nitrosamine in our body. So the nitrate content is very concerned. We concern the nitrate content, so in the vegetables. So the vegetables, the less nitrate would be better. But simple blanching, just 1 minute at degrees of 80 degrees or something like that, the nitrate content reduced just half. So that means it is really wonderful to get rid of nitrate content. And another thing is the heat labile vitamin C. They say that many people worry about heat labeled nutrients. And so because of that, they emphasize the importance of fresh vegetables. But when we check the vitamin C level in the blanching, it said it reduced about only 20%. But the blanching makes the volume reducing, volume shrinking. So if the vegetables are blanched, we can eat 5 times more volumes of vegetables. So blanching is a much better method to eat vegetables, and we can eat more phytochemicals, more fibers, and together, actually more vitamins we can eat. But when we check the centenarians, all the nutrient composition and everything, and we found that interestingly, vitamin B12 was normal. The centenarians, vitamin B12 was. So I was happy, so I just reported it to the meeting at Atlanta, Georgia. So I just reported that the Korean centenarians' vitamin B12 level is intact, within normal, so I didn't pay any attention. And at that time, I never forget the Marian Johnson of Georgia University. She estimated in the conference, why normal? Why Korean centenarians, they take just the vegetable-oriented food and don't take the animal food? But why vitamin B12 is normal? I was really sorry at that time. I couldn't answer. I never thought of it before. So when I come back to my lab, I checked everything again. I checked all the vegetables, all the foods intact, the level of vitamin B12. And there I found the very interesting data that vitamin B12 is enriched in gochujang, doenjang, ganjang, 청국장, all fermented Korean foods, and even in kimchi. And in addition, the kim, nori, the vitamin B12 level is very high. And the centenarian's favorite food is the kim. And the Korean traditional favorite food is many different kinds of fermented foods, doenjang, ganjang, 청국장, something like this. We found that the special role of microbial fermentation is working for Korean centenarian longevity. So, in conclusion, the Korean food is about the unbalance of vegetable and fruits, no problem. And about the issue of blanching and the fresh, we can say blanching is good enough. And the vitamin B12 issue, it is fully compensated. And I didn't tell you the data, but the centenarians, they are not calorie restricted. The optimum calories consumption they have. So we can say that the Korean food, our Korean traditional ethnic food, is good enough for longevity. So through the papers, through the international papers, I proposed that the Korean ethnic food belongs in the longevity diet conversation. So I proposed. So it's a kind of another good reason that K-food is recently becoming popular. And lastly, another thing is that in Korean centenarians, really surprising data is lifestyle and independence of the centenarians. The first round of centenarians, actually they are born in the 19th century, end of the 19th century. So we can say Joseon dynasty something. But the second round of centenarians, they are all born after the 1910. That means that the Japanese colonial system, they are born. So the background is totally different. And another very important factor is the Korean War. During the Korean War, the first round centenarian was at the age of 50. But the second round centenarian is during the Korean War, their age is around 20 to 30, something like that. So that is a very big historical event that changes their every lifestyle and everything, thinking, everything. But anyhow, the education literacy is improved. It's reasonable. But interestingly, the health, about the health conditions, such as smoking rate, drinking rate. 20 years ago, the first round centenarians at age of 100 still, about 15% people, centenarians, they drink or they smoke. But these days, the rate increased to 2 or 3%. That means these days, the recent centenarians, the second round centenarians, they are very much concerned about their health. And their lifestyle is very much corrected. But another important thing is life satisfaction rate. We usually ask, are you satisfied with your living or your life, something like that. In the first round sentence, they answered about 30% yes. But these days, 50% say yes. That means the quality of life of centenarians get improved very significantly. And more than that, the autonomy in their lives. This, IADL data. When we compare the IADL, this telephone using, shopping is increased, but amazingly, housework, the capacity to housework is improved 9 times. 9 times. That means they are becoming more independent than before. So I propose this box temple model of longevity is bottom, and pillars, and rooftops. So in my talk, I have introduced several unique findings in Korean centenarians: the gender difference, and the regional difference, and time dependence, and longevity associated the genes, and Korean centenarian reference genomes, and hepatitis B virus substance, absolute negative, and centenarian specific antibody, and Sorokto people, and Korean ethnic food, and drastic changes in the care system. So, publish the books. And in your package, you have a new book that we just prepared the book for this meeting. So, the new longevity, not only for survival, but the meaningful vitality we have to do, but the changes, every aspect changes. Biosocial, environmental condition changes. So we can say that we need a new longevity revolution. In Korea these days, we are very happy that many K-pop or K-drama, K-beauty, something like that, and recently K-food is coming up. I would like dare to propose that K-longevity in respect of quality, quantity, and speed is remarkable. Not only the quantity, but also the quality aspect. The condition is much better than before, and speed. So in respect of, you can say that this. So centenarians of today are different from centenarians of yesterday, more independent, and open to interdependence with the state. So therefore, we can conclude that centenarians are turning into pioneers of a new era of longevity. I would like to conclude my talk with citing the comments of the Archbishop Yun Gong-yi. He is now a 103 years old active person. And at his age of 99, we call that age white age. So we had a kind of celebrating mass. And at the last moment of his sermon, he cited the famous words of Saint Augustinus. And I just citing that comment, I conclude my talk. Resting our past in his mercy, living our today in his love,